A shakeup at the top of the Major League Baseball Players Association shows that both sides might be getting ready to go to war.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. And thanks so much for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcasting network. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, but the best way to get a hold of us is right here on the YouTube channel. And if you come by here, make sure to use that hashtag EverydaySully. It helps us find you. Let's quickly do the trivia question. I adjust my headset a little bit. The trivia question was, who's the only New York Yankee World Series champion who played in 2025? Played was the key part of that trivia question. Because Sammy Boy Smith, who's usually pretty good at this, said, Aaron Boone, brother of Brett and son of Bob. Well, thank you for the genealogy lesson there. But no, Aaron Boone not only did not play in 2025, he never won a World Series ring with the Yankees. He only played with them in 2003, and that team lost to the Marlins. But Big John 08865 got it correct. The recently retired David Robertson of the 2025 Phillies. That is correct. So going into the 2026 season, unless Robertson resigns or Brett Gardner has a big comeback, there will be no active World Series champions who earn their ring with the Yankees. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. Since 1996, there's always been a few. There have always been a few. There's a little bit of a gap between 93 and 96. After Willie Randolph retired, there were none in 94 and 95. But in 96, there were a bunch. All right, big news, though. 94, there was a big labor strike. It ruined the World Series of 94 and may have destroyed the Expos. Well, we may be staring at another showdown. And I've said it before, I've said it again, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're even talking about a labor strike. But here we are. Well, Tony Clark, the former Detroit Tiger, the former New York Met, the former Boston Red Sox, the former Arizona Diamondback, the former New York Yankee, who was on the 2004 Yankees, and a fine player, had a nice career, has been the head of the Players Association for several years, since 2013. And he was head of the Players Association during the lockout that we had before the 2022 season. Now, he resigned. He resigned kind of suddenly. I didn't see this happening, and apparently a lot of players didn't see this happening. But evidently it wasn't the biggest shock in the world when you listen to Jeff Passan and some of the other writers who talked about it in some of the talk shows today, who were saying, yeah, this was pretty much expected. When you read about it, Tony Clark never seemed to be the pit bull that they needed, I guess. I mean, maybe I'm just so used to figures like Marvin Miller and Don Fear being the heads of the Players Association, and they just settled in and never lost. Never lost. Marvin Miller was the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Never lost anything. Always beat the owners. And Don Fear wasn't that far behind him. Well, under Tony Clark, the owners got some major concessions, and you got to see things like the luxury tax. You got to see things like revenue sharing happening, which I think should eliminate any discussion of a salary cap. You have a deterrent for 28 out of the 30 teams from spending like drunken sailors. You only have two teams that are going crazy budget-wise, and one of them missed the playoffs entirely. But I digress. When you start seeing things like some of the stuff that Ken Rosenthal was reporting in The Athletic, an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, what is this, Hamlet? and then also just some financial improprieties and some dirt that is bubbling up to the surface. You know what? If you're about to go into a proverbial war, you can't have any of that. You can't have any of that baggage. It sounds like Bruce Meyer, who has been the deputy to Tony Clark, is probably going to step in and have that role. But he's got to, whoever is in charge has got to be ready to fight the long fight for the players in this upcoming this inevitable lockout. And it's funny, the great actor Robert Duvall just died 2 or 3 days ago over the weekend. For not one of the great actors of all time, and he played Tom Hagen in the Godfather series, the consigliere. And seeing Tony Clark step down reminded me of an exchange that Sonny and Tom Hagen had in The Godfather. And maybe Tony Clark isn't the right guy for a big fight like this. And I kept thinking they need a wartime consigliere. And I remember there's that moment when Sonny is getting really mad about Tom Hagen not doing what he wants. He says, "Will you just do what I tell you to do? Damn it, if I had a wartime consigliere, a Sicilian, I wouldn't be in this shape. Pop had Jenko, and look what I got." Which was a huge and unnecessary dig at Tom Hagen. But it might be an accurate one for Tony Clark. If you're the Players Association, the owners seem to be ready to go scorched earth. I don't know why. It seems insane that you would potentially sacrifice the entire sport and strangle the golden goose when the sport seems healthy, money is rolling in, and you have a system, a salary floor and accountability for revenue sharing will do a hell of a lot more for competition than capping the Dodgers. If you cap the Dodgers and the Mets, how is that going to make Cleveland spend more money? How is that going to make Miami spend more money? No one's ever answered me that question. And by the way, I keep bringing back this book. Please read this book. I get no kickbacks for this. The Lords of the Realm by John Hellier. This is the history of the owners versus the players all the way back to the 1880s. And it's always been the same thing. Always been the same thing. The owners have never been forthright, and the players have been pushed around. And even to this day, they're not talking about capping the value of a franchise, what they can borrow off of it. They're not doing anything to say, all right, make sure the bottom team starts spending. A salary cap would do nothing, zero, zilch, to bring the spending up of some of the bottom 5 teams, including the Cleveland Guardians, a team that has a legitimate shot to win the World Series, or at least make it to the World Series as an American League representative. But here we are. Papa Jenko, look what I got. Tony Clark may not be the right guy for the job. And certainly with all that baggage that he had, you know what? It may not be the right time to have someone be, losing the confidence of the players when there's such a major battle ahead. Well, one of the teams that is in a so-called small market and small revenue area, the San Diego Padres. They've yet to win a World Series, but you got to give them credit. They are going out and trying to win in 2026. And an interesting thing that they're doing, they are basically hoping for reclamation projects to come through. And wouldn't be surprised if some of them did. If some of them did. Ever want to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole schmear. And if you're looking at the board and you're thinking about which team could make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year. Whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds an extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And you know what? Now you can not only win cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started and use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. Thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. If you haven't already, check out the new Everydayer Club. You get free audio of Locked On MLB. It's similar to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and also check out the Everydayer Club Discord. So check us out at lockedonmlb.supercast.com. Now, the San Diego Padres have shown a solution of how to basically do what I think is the main function of a Major League Baseball team, which is give their fans an exciting summer. Now, I mentioned that in the other show, and boy, oh boy, I got some people pushing back at me on that. I got some people, calling me, saying I should never talk about sports again for having that point of view. And we'll talk about that in a future episode. We got a mailbag episode coming up. Initially, I was going to do a mailbag episode today, but the Clark news was something I felt worth talking about. But San Diego puts a quality product on the field year in and year out. They make the playoffs virtually every year, and they're hoping one of these years everything falls together. Now, this offseason, they lost Suarez to the Braves. They lost Dylan Cease to the Toronto Blue Jays. They lost Luis Arraez to the Giants. But they've still had an interesting offseason. Cease is gone. Yu Darvish is potentially injured for the rest of the season. We don't know what's happening with Yu Darvish. He might be done. So what are they doing? Well, just in the last few days, they've taken a look at the free agent pitchers available, the players available. Walker Buehler, now a Padre. German Marquez, now a Padre. Griffin Canning, now a Padre. They brought in 3 pitchers, all of whom have had success in the major leagues. All of them have shown that they have been, at least in the past, reliable major league pitchers. And all of them are, buying them super low. They went into spring training again. None of them had a job, and buying them super low and hoping things could turn around. Walker Buehler, who lest we forget was the pitcher on the mound when the Dodgers clinched the World Series in 2024, pitched for the Red Sox and pitched very badly. Thank you very much. He had a very bad 2025 season to the point where the Red Sox, a contending team, let him go. Now, the Phillies picked him up for the stretch run, and he pitched well in a 3-game sample size. But this was, he had been cut by the Red Sox, and they picked Buehler up, and he was not he didn't play with them in the postseason. Now, Buehler had a terrific World Series last year, throwing 6 shutout innings, including getting the save in the clinching Game 5, and he has been an all-star several times over. He happened to miss all of 2023, and he's not been great since coming back from the injury list, but who knows? Maybe he's perfectly fine now. This is a guy who was an all-star as recently as 2021, and they got him for a minor league deal. It is a no-risk pickup, which, if things happen, they could pick up a quality pitcher for him. German Marquez is another pitcher who they got a 1-year deal, actually with an option. This is another person who was a all-star in 2021 and, pitching in Colorado. Now, last year was a disaster for him. It was an absolute disaster. I don't like to look at win-loss record. He was 3-16, but you can't look at win-loss record when you're playing for a historically bad Colorado team. But he did pitch to a 6.70 ERA over 126 and a third innings, and only pitched 1 game in 2024 due to injury. In fact, he pitched a total of 5 games in 2023 and 2024 and came back from those injuries to have a rotten 2025. But he's going to go from one of the worst pitchers' ballparks to a pretty darn good one. And if he can bounce back and be healthy, again, it's a guaranteed contract for $1 million, which I'd take, but it's really a zero risk. If Marquez and Buehler can even get back, not talking about being back to their all-star level, just be back to being an average major league pitcher, then that's a phenomenal pickup. And Griffin Canning signed as well. Now, Griffin Canning, again, is he a superstar? No, he's not. He's had, he had an okay half season with the Mets last year and has shown flashes of excellence while with the Angels, but most of the time has been a bit of a disappointment. But again, change of venue, change of scenery, and a chance to prove himself for that big eventual contract. You know what? Eventually, that could turn into exactly what the Padres need, which is what? Say it with me, a completely risk-free pickup. And oh yeah, the other thing they did was they picked up Castellanos. Now, I talked about this before, but Castellanos basically played himself out of Philadelphia. A guy who was an all-star and who got some MVP votes in two times since COVID, basically, and in 2023 had a terrific season with the Philadelphia Phillies, and can play every day and still has power, but sulked and whined his way out of a job in Philadelphia, and they cut him. And so zero risk for signing him to major league minimum wage. And if he can look up, if any combination of the players I just said, Marquez, Canning, Buehler, Castellanos, can look at themselves in the mirror and say, man, this is my last shot to prove I'm a major leaguer, to prove that I'm an all-star. I've been an all-star before. I've been an all-star since COVID. Canning hasn't. Okay, that's a bad, but everyone else has been that quality player. And the Padres are saying, hey, we believe in you. Absolutely, we believe in you. And we have a chance to do something this year. So you can sulk, or you can use this as your chance to prove everyone wrong. And if of those four players, if two of them get back to form, then my goodness, the Padres are going to be an outstanding team. And they brought back Michael King as well. So, the Padres are one of those teams, they have lost players over the years. They have. Snell, Soto, every time they lose someone big, they seem to survive. Now, it would be great if it all clicked, the Rubik's Cube, and they finally win it all. It wouldn't be something if it was this combination of players that are giving a second chance to that does the trick. When we come back, we're going to talk about a team that has let's call it a very, very remote chance to make the postseason, but I think should be interesting. And your pal Sully is going to be talking about him a bunch for the next week or so. You got workplace chaos. You got deadlines stacking up. You got an inbox that's overflowing. And the one position you have to fill, it's sitting wide open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is the job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, what their skills are, their experience, their location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minutes I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Do you know what? Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners to Locked On MLB will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you've heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. I want to just point out I gave a little send off to my pal Booney, who was the host of Locked On A's. He now is hosting his own show, The House Always Wins, which is about Las Vegas and the A's. And I wish him luck. He's a good guy. And for the Locked On A's, is going to get a new host very soon. But they have a little bit of a opening right now and a little bit of a cocoon period. And I have agreed to help out in the next couple weeks and be a guest host of Locked On A's, as well as doing Locked On MLB. I'm not doing it for the full season, Mom. My mom would be, I could just hear her right now saying, you're not doing 2 podcasts again. That's right. The summer of 2024, I did Locked On MLB and Locked On A's every single day, and it was a bit much. But for a couple of weeks to help out, that's what I'm going to do. And there's spring training. There's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about right now, except I think trying to be as positive as I can about the hopes for the West Sacramento A's and the fact that they are actually building a ballpark. But for the last part of today's show, I am going to play a segment. I'm going to play a segment for an upcoming episode of Locked On A's, which is going to be airing in just a couple of days. But I want to play a little snippet of some of the stuff that I'm talking about and some of the stuff I'm going to go over. And Mom, don't worry. It's only going to be for a couple weeks. It's not going to be for the whole season. And I can see my mom is here. And how do I know? Because she just said, yikes. Don't worry, Mom. I'm not taking over full time. Just helping out for a couple weeks. Anyway, here is a clip of an upcoming episode of stuff that I'm talking about on an upcoming Locked On A's show. I'm a baseball fan first and foremost, and I want all 30 teams to be healthy and have a chance. I'm not saying I want all 30 teams to win it all. I understand there's going to be teams that are going to be good and there are teams going to be bad, but I want to see each team in a good stadium situation and in the right market. Now, I think we can all agree the stadium that they're, at least the renderings of what they're building in Las Vegas, looks amazing. And what I really love about it is that it doesn't look and feel like a traditional stadium. It looks like something new. And I've been begging for the A's to do something. About several years ago on my old podcast, I did a whole episode saying I want the A's to have not an old-timey stadium, but the Stadium of Innovation. Kind of like what Walt Disney wanted to do with Epcot Center. You know, Epcot Center in Florida, which is now just like a year-long World's Fair in Florida. Epcot stands for Experimental Prototype City of Tomorrow. What Walt wanted to do in Central Florida was to create a city which was going to be a think tank, an urban think tank of people who were trying out urban planning, forms of mass transportation, forms of road construction, all these different things of planning they could experiment in this city in Central Florida. And that's what he wanted to do. Walt died. It never came to fruition. I wanted the A's to have a stadium like that I wanted it in the East Bay, where they would take from all the innovative tech people from all around the Silicon Valley, South Bay, East Bay, San Francisco, wherever, all around that area to create innovations. You go to the A's to see a ballpark, but you also see experimental innovations, maybe new ways to get concessions, new ways to have a monitor, new ways to do this or that. It would become like a think tank. That's what I wanted them to build in Oakland. And I think they have a chance to do that in Las Vegas. I think they have a chance with this new, great, modern-looking ballpark that they're trying to create in the Strip. How are they going to draw people into it? It's not always going to be people saying, oh, boy, I got to see, Brenton Rooker hit a few home runs. Sometimes it's going to be, I'm going to go to that weird new ballpark where they have this new thing they're trying out there. I want every innovation to be experimented in Las Vegas with the A's. They should have done that in Oakland. That would have made a great sort of counterbalance to the traditional ballpark where the Giants played. The innovative ballpark is in Oakland. You have the chance to do that in Las Vegas, and I want them to do that. And I also believe, and look at, I'm a big history fan of baseball. I love, in fact, I have, right within arm's distance, the cover is ripped of this book here, The Mustache Gang, which is about the 1972 A's. I always have a baseball book within arm's reach of me. I think the A's should change their name. I think that with the arrival in Las Vegas should just be a brand new page. Turn the page, start again. Las Vegas wants a team of their new identity. The A's doesn't mean, the name of the A's and the brand of the A's doesn't mean anything to the good folks in Las Vegas. Whether you want to call them the Aviators, the Aces, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, give them a brand new feel, give it a fresh new start, leave the A's and the legacy behind. Yes, I know they played in Philadelphia, and yes, I know they played in Kansas City before they played in West Sacramento and Oakland. I'm well aware of that. But do you know what? There's been a lot of sort of the brand is kind of left some bad taste in people's mouths. Let's just start again. It's a brand new franchise for Las Vegas, a brand new history. Now, I love the history of the A's. I got the 1972 program right behind me. I've been to several A's postseason games over the years. And the fact of the matter is, there's been a lot of bad feelings about it. And quite frankly, I think going to Vegas, which we should all hope, even I, with my cynicism towards what was happening beforehand, we should all hope that this is the final resting spot for the A's. But I also think it should be a brand new identity for them. All right, so check it out. I'm going to be doing a few weeks of episode there while the new host gets signed on and everything like that. We should have a little bit of fun going on there. All right, folks, it's getting late. It's time for your pal Sully to get his beauty sleep in. How beautiful I clearly am. And I want to just thank you all for making Locked On MLB your first listen and for helping us become the #1 sports podcasting network. Especially some of you who really don't agree with my take on what a baseball team owes their fans. And what am I going to do? I can't fix all of you. But thanks so much for following us. And please join the Everydayer Club, which is locked on MLB.supercast.com. Join the Discord through there. And you can also listen to ad-free shows. For those of you on video, tune into the first ever national 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And for your second listen, swing over to Locked On A's for the next few weeks, and you get double your pal Sully. And it's going to bring us to the trivia question, which is, what Yankee infielder and coach ended up with 12 World Series rings for his trouble? Someone who was a player and a coach for the New York Yankees. An infielder ended up with 12 World Series rings as both a player and as a coach. And actually appeared in a lot more as a player and coach as well, but earned 12 World Series rings for his troubles. That is the trivia question for tonight. Talking about Tony Clark stepping down, the Padres doing some quality bargain hunting, and me chipping in to talk a little bit about the A's. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.